Welcome back to Deal Diary.
How are you today?
I'm feeling good. We're kitted out.
Girl.
If you're not watching this live, we both have our Deal Diary sweatsuits on.
Honestly, I'm obsessed.
It's really cute. So today we're going to be diving into the preparation work we do before we go into an owner meeting.
Yep.
I personally love diving into this. I think we have a really good structure in place. The first place that we normally start, of course, is online. So really diving into the Google ratings, which is your field. And then also looking into where is it physically on a map. Can you speak to that a little?
Just a little background for my W-2. I, at a very high level, manage the global retail experience for a brand. And one of the big things there is really managing, because it really drives new customer acquisition through Google. And how do you do that? By getting reviews and ratings about your business. So even more importantly, are you getting reviews and are you responding to them? So that is something that I really look at when I'm looking at a Google My Business. What is their average star rating? Are they responding to their customers? What are their customers saying about the overall service and the business? Those are the key initial research steps that I take when I'm diving into Google. I think it's also important to look at the pictures. Are they uploading them? Is it more the customers uploading them? Because that also helps me understand the level of engagement that the customers have.
And I think the next part to that is when you're diving in with the broker, really come prepared with any preliminary research that you've gathered, because that can really paint you a picture to see where the business is at. So you're not assuming too many things in the owner meeting as well. The last thing you want to go in there and do is be kind of a little bit aggressive with your approach of just not knowing enough. And then obviously, when you're prepping for the meeting, try and research a little bit about the owner if you can.
The owner, the industry at a high level too. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing that I learned from even the last power tool company that we looked at, talking to another owner, them saying, hey, also keep in mind battery operated tools that could change the potential success of your future business. So also doing that research too, to know what you're really walking into.
Yeah. And then from a customer base, marketing, back-end operations, really understanding okay, if I was in this business today, do I have client saturation? What questions should I be asking about their customer base and their marketing? For us, it's if it's too much of a boys club and there's too much happening by referrals, it's not a business that we can really take over.
Correct. Because those referrals will be gone tomorrow because their loyalty is to the owner.
Yeah. And then the next part is really looking at the competitive landscape. So we learned really quickly in car washes, if you're not looking at your Google Maps and really understanding, okay, if this is $12 and we're charging overpriced, is our location actually better? Do we provide more value? Mm-hmm. And for us, we didn't in the deal that we were looking at.
Yep.
So it's
not to mention there was one right across the street that was sparkly, shiny, and new. That was very interesting to see live.
And I think the more you get really niche on your industry, the more you'll already have this data and this information. Yeah. But when you're first kind of looking into you really want to look at the competitive landscape and be asking the owner, what is your point of difference? And if they can't answer that concisely, you really need to understand what value are you going to add into that business,
right? Because if the current owner can't tell you how, if they weren't retiring or whatever the case is, why they're trying to sell, if they can't articulate where their areas of opportunity for future growth, you know what I mean? Then I'm not confident that I want to buy this business. If you can't even tell me, and you've been owning it for 20 years, how you're going to expand and grow to the next level, or where your areas of opportunity or untapped markets are.
Yeah. And I think when someone answers that, it's really interesting to see the owners who know if they did have that energy, where they would put it into.
Yeah.
And the ones that are just trying to tell you something just because they want to exit the business.
No, totally. And I think it's more so, it's not we're looking for a right or wrong answer. It's how well do you know your business? That's what we're really trying to understand, to see if we even want to buy from you. Because it's not, I feel especially when we first meet these owners, all the questions that we ask are very high level because we don't want to come in guns a-blazing, but it's more so just understanding how well do you know your business?
And then the next part we find super interesting is like supplier relations. So depending on what industry you're looking at, this one that we had just met the owner with this week was the power tools. So it was interesting like to hear how these big corporate companies really operate, especially if they are 70% of your revenue. You need to make sure that you can have a good relationship with your supplier.
Totally. And is like future revenue dependent upon, do they like the business or is their loyalty again to the owner?
Yep. Definitely. And then licensing and permits, not something we want to play in that world, but it's really good to even call up a few local businesses and even just be like, hey, I'm looking to acquire in a different state like you did. And most owners will be willing to have that conversation or offer to buy them a coffee or do what we do and just rock up. But like the more you can really understand around like what does that look like, can that be transferable? Because sometimes you don't want to go into all of these owner meetings not knowing anything. You just kind of look like you haven't come prepared.
Yeah. And it really just, you don't look credible. And why would they want to talk to you if you haven't even done like preliminary homework before even stepping foot in the business?
Yeah. And then the next part that's super important for us is like employee retention. How do you look after your employees? Like how long has your longest been with you? Like what kind of culture is this business operating at? And I think it really stands out to us. We're like, oh wow, like they talk about their employees like their family.
That's really important. That's really, really important because it just tells us about the culture of the business and kind of how they speak about their employees. Further reiterates if they're telling us, oh, they've been with us forever. That's just kind of like more evidence to support what they're saying. And more importantly too, have you groomed someone? And if you haven't groomed someone, why?
I think it's interesting. You can tell those businesses that are like quickly scrambling to like get an operator because that's what most people are looking for. And I think like the more serious, roll-ups, it's like you have to have a really good operator that understands both the industry, but then also like how to run a successful business, which is hard to find. I've written down market trends, but I feel like it's more of like keeping up to date in that industry.
Okay.
So I think for us is like, as we spoke to the landscaper that, buys tools and repairs tools, that's how we found out about the whole battery change. We would have had no idea.
Who would have known that like power tools are beginning to make the shift to battery operated tools?
Yeah.
I would have never known that.
Even in car washes, there's certain things now where people, even with like paint, different types of paint, isn't it Teslas that can't go through?
No, not Teslas. It's if you have that like that matte paint, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't go through one of those, what are those bays, automatic bays. The other thing that we learned too, that sometimes customers don't like when they have that, I forgot what that track is called.
Yes.
Because it can create accidents. So they will, if they see that, they will steer clear of certain car washes due to that track.
Yeah. And then like the next thing, especially on car washes, maintenance and equipment. Like how are you looking after them?
Yeah.
Are you seeing that in your P&L? And then like making sure, because ultimately all of these questions by the end of this 1 hour conversation, you want to have a good idea of like whether this is moving forward or you're deading out the deal. Yeah. So I think the last one, which is quite obvious, is obviously just really diving into the financial health.
Yeah.
P&Ls, balance sheets. Are you able to get tax returns? If not, what hoop do you have to jump over
to get that?
They're just like gold these days.
I know. But it's like, how do we move forward if I don't have the numbers? I'm confused.
It's wild. What else have we learned? I think the ability to also just really be able to build rapport with that owner quickly.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from a place of like being super prepared with like, what is your pitch? Like, why are you right to actually buy this business?
Yeah. And also just asking questions how they got started in the beginning. Because if you just go in asking 1,000 different questions about the business, they're going to be a lot more closed off versus if you are genuinely interested in the owner and their story and how they got to this business. That will also tell you a lot of maybe why they're selling, how they grew it, etc., and what may need to like change in the future. Yeah. And I think a lot of our owner meetings, we've figured that out, especially like the power tool one.
And even their motive, like, you know, really understanding like, okay, like you're burnt out. Why are you so burnt out? Like, why are you exhausted? And then trying to figure out a deal where they can obviously stay on for a period of time, but take away a lot of their pressure. And I think the other interesting thing is like someone within the UA community was like at the end of their deal closing and the owner has come back and been like, no, I want to put the rent up further because they own the building. So I think it's so foundational to really find out what you can have in common with this person, whether it's like you're me and you have an Australian accent and they just love it, but like you have to find some kind of like talking points to really, because later down the track you are going to need that relationship in order to close successfully.
Yeah, because we've heard so many deals are almost across the line and then the owner changes a term that maybe you guys haven't agreed upon yet or they haven't signed. And then it prolongs the deal 30 more days or whatever.
Yeah, and I think being super transparent, like if you are not ready to buy that business, like make sure you're upfront with that. I need to get this sorted on my end. While I'm working on this, can you provide me this information? I think it's those people that like just waste sellers' times. Like I would feel really upset if someone wasn't transparent with me.
Yeah, just tell me if you are waiting on something, at least communicate that. It's not that I'm not actively working on trying to close this deal. It's I'm also waiting on something too.
And even when you're raising capital, I think it's really important to make sure that the owner knows that you're going through that process.
Totally. Because I think that they understand because they're trying to sell it. And if you've built rapport properly, they want you to buy it. So they'll be patient with you and work with you as long as you are just communicating with them on a daily basis.
And then for an off-market deal, if they're not ready now, like me and like we're now deciding, okay, how can we like prep a business to be ready to exit and really going through that process as well. It's so exciting. So we've linked our Notion portal below. It's free. All you have to do is pop in your email. If anyone wants us to do a specific topic, let us know. Bye.
Have a good day. Toodles.